Hey, this is Chuck, and I'm talking to Bobby Blitz from Overkill. Bobby, how you doing, man?
What's happening, Chuck? Metal Wani, headbangers all over the world.
Awesome, man. Hey, so you guys are about a third of the way through your Wings of the USA tour. I think it's about a third of the way. How's it been going so far?
Well, it's actually about a sixth of the way because we're going to do a second run. It's
all right.
It's a third of the way on this run. Seems to be accepted really well. I think it's one of the things about Overkill is that it's always event-like, based on the energy for all these years. So I think people really look forward to it. And one of the cool things is being able to add new songs that still have a, I don't know, let's say a traditional feel to them. You know,
right.
the new record is again has been accepted at a pretty high level, and I think that that's based on, let's say, the formula that we've used over all these years. So, so real successful to this point.
Yeah, it's your guys' 19th album, Wings Over War. That's awesome. So I was wondering, you guys just got back from Europe, and how do you compare the U.S. crowds to the European crowds?
One of the things is that, there's obviously differences in culture, but the world's become much smaller through, let's say, internet and commerce.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's, you're in contact overseas instantaneously since email. And now through, a variety of different apps, and the Europeans dress like Americans and the Americans dress like the Europeans. So it's, there's less difference now than when I saw when we had originally started. But I think the crowds get, even if there are differences in culture, food, religion, whatever it may be, as soon as, the first note's played, the commonality comes out in the people. Right. The American crowds have always been off the hook, but so have the French crowds, so have the German crowds. Right. I mean, this is kind of a good thing that this is, let's say, this specific music is a language understood by all, and then all of them speak it back the same way to the band.
So, talking about like thrash music, I mean, I've been a fan for forever, and I feel like the scene is, if not as strong, very close to being as strong as it was back in the 80s. How do you compare and contrast when, you guys started off in the 80s to now in the metal scene?
Well, as far as excitement goes, I mean, the excitement is still there. I mean, I run into some of the old timers sometimes. They go, "Oh, it's not like the good old days." I'm like, "You're missing out, bro. Fucking pay attention." The new days have got a lot of excitement, a lot of energy in it. I think the main difference is that in the 80s, it was being created from day to day.
Right.
And I think that was kind of the cool vibe about the entire scene, was that there was no template to go by. It was really taking, the energy of punk, the new wave of British heavy metal, and, the Sabbaths and the Priests, and kind of mixing it up into a bag in different parts of the world or different parts of the U.S., and all coming up with kind of similar results that have turned into what thrash metal is, whether it be Creator in Germany or the Exodus guys out on the West Coast, or Overkill in New York. Right. The idea is that the cool thing was the template was being created simultaneously, and we were getting similar results. So I think that's probably the biggest difference, is that the excitement back then was because who knew what was next. Right. Now we kind of know what's next, but we're still enjoying it.
So are there any up-and-coming thrash bands that you have listened to that you've been excited to hear?
Well, believe it or not, they're not up and coming, but they're back on the radar, and that is from the UK, Evil. I think that I think that they're the band of this second wave of thrash, because they're for sure not first wavers, they're second. That it could steal the crown. I think that they have the tools. They have originality. They have presentation, they have excitement, they have energy. I think many of the super young thrash bands use the template that was created in the 80s and plug themselves into it. Eventually, they're going to have to find that original avenue. Right. And it's obviously not all of them. I mean, Warbringers found their own sound, etc. Whereas they kind of sound like Exodus in the earlier days. So Evil is going to get my vote. Apparently this new record's supposed to be pretty special.
Cool. So you've got this new guy, I think his name's Jason Bittner, who's playing drums on the new album. How has he impacted the dynamic of Overkill?
We call him Smash. We did this like thing in the middle of the set. We wanted this like big kind of like big concert part in the middle of the set. And Dee and Jason do this kind of like jam thing. You know, it's like it's not a drum solo, and it's not a bass solo, but they play it together. Well, I kind of talk to the crowd and introduce them, et cetera, before a song. But we call them Clank and Smash. I think, somewhere in what I just said can tell you how he's affected the band. Because first and foremost, we're very comfortable with him on a personal level.
Awesome.
You tour as long as I have, you don't want to be surrounded by douchebags.
Yeah.
It's just, it's the first rule I have is that I like doing this because for most of my career, I've been able to tour with people I like.
Yeah.
And Jason is one of those people. I've known him since he was a teenager, coming to Overkill shows.
Right.
And, we knew he was a ball buster. We knew what his talents were. We knew we liked his personality. When I was in the Ukraine on his first show, somewhere around the 6th or 8th song, I said, the band's changed. The chemistry's now different. Even the songs that were written prior to Jason are now changing because Jason's doing it. So we kind of embrace that chemistry. And I think by doing that and doing it naturally, playing with him for a year before we even recorded a note with him, gave us the opportunity to make that change of chemistry seamless.
Right.
Which is really, really the key. You don't want to force it. You want it to seem natural. So I think that what he's brought to us is a higher level of abilities. I think his consistency is unmatched from any drummer that's ever been in this band. Plays every song exactly the same night after night, but can go off on tangents. Can do things differently and bring the band back in just to make it more interesting for himself, the band, and an audience. So I think Jason gets all thumbs up. Awesome. He gets a 10 out of 10 for Smash.
Yeah, I love that guy. So I think Overkill. Your albums are always powerful. Lots of fucking energy, but I think where you guys shine and where you crush is the live show. What do you think is that element that Overkill has live that has fans just coming back year after year? Because they're a dedicated crew,
Sure.
and they every time Overkill is in town, they're there.
Yeah, I think it's realism. We like doing this. In as much as I said Jason's a ball buster, and that in my book it gets a thumbs up because I like that my day is not filled with anxiety, but it's calm. I like being here. It's like a middle-aged boys party. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody says smoking Cuban cigars and rolling dice. That's a hell of a lot more fun than talking about. I hate when this asshole does that part. You know? Other bands, not all, obviously. I mean, there's many bands that have great camaraderie, but in this industry of ego, people grate on each other. But what brings us back, I think, or the people back to see us, is realism. There's a purity in what we do. That excitement from having a good day and no anxiety. That excitement is let go on the stage. And I think that I've always, just from a personal level, have always thought my most important show is the next one. Okay. Not what happened a week ago, or the biggest one I ever did, or the biggest one I will ever do. But my most important show tonight is in Detroit at St. Andrews Hall. Cool. So I think that's one of the reasons, and people pick that up. Yeah.
Do you ever, you've been doing this for quite a while. Do you ever still get like kind of worked up and anxious about a show before you do it?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. The whole thing about the live theater is that we have plenty of experience, but there's still the possibility of failure. Right. And the possibility of failure is what gives it the edge. So you're, I know, I've seen Dee Verney to my left for decades, and we've had, shit moments on stage, and I'll have my head down, and I'm like, I can have my head down out of the corner of my eye, and go, oh, there he is, running right through that fucking wall with me. But that's the way to get through those moments, is to run through that wall, not to, and that's I think that's a great asset. And the fact that a person like that, for me personally, is that dependable for that many decades, is it's indispensable. There's nothing that could ever replace that. My words don't even make the value of it, don't even explain what the real value of it is.
Yeah. So Wings of War, 19th album. It's got to be like tough with all that material, pantload of fucking songs to choose from to set up a set list. So what is that process like for you guys? What, I mean, just pick shit out of a hat, or do you go with a couple of ones that you like most, or you think the fans will like, or what is that process?
What I say goes. I'm in charge. Anybody got a fucking problem with that? Turn your computer off right now. You know, we're also selfish bastards. You know, we like, and I mean that in a good way. We like to play. I think that we like to think of ourselves as being relevant in the current day. You know, that it's not about what we were, but still about what we are.
Yeah.
And that becomes, I think, the motivation for doing these live shows. Can we still do it? That kind of a thing.
Right.
So when you're picking the songs, by being selfish bastards, we're going to pick 3, 4 new ones to throw in there. It's not all about the Years of Decay and Horoscope for us. It's about the Wings of War. So the new ones have to be in there. There's some classic ones that should always be in there because they're crowd favorites. So now we've got 4. Now we've got 8. And then the rest of it is that selfish shit, where we just go, okay, the second half of the set, let's do what we want.
Okay, cool.
You know, by committee, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason picked a few, and then we said, oh, that's interesting. We haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah.
And then we went back, and Dee Dee wanted to add Necklace Shine to the set, and I said, oh, God, it's one of my favorite openers that we've ever had. You know?
Yeah.
So it's 8 that are necessary based on new and classic, and then the other 8 are just up to committee.
Cool. Do you ever like just throw in a mixer like in the middle? Because I know you guys try to have like a set list that you're gonna go with, you know, show after show, just so it's, you know, consistent. But do you ever just throw somebody for a loop and say, hey, today we're gonna do Coma?
Huh. I'm sure we have. I just can't remember when that was. You know, it's. I've been saying it on stage for this whole tour. I was like, I can't hear you, and they would go. They would, but I'm old and I'm deaf. It's gonna have to be more. I'm sure we have. Like for instance, we flip-flop distortion and head of a pin off of the new record. But one of the things about the energy that the band has is appearing like a well-oiled machine. And to do that, repetition is necessary.
Right.
You know, to pick that set and say, okay, we're going to stick with this set. We don't do, you know, we do old guy metal tours now. We do 17 shows, so nobody has to go home and get on a fucking IV to rehydrate themselves. But it's, you know, we can give all the energy in those 17 shows.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really the real important thing is to be that well-oiled machine.
Yeah. So what do you still love about metal music?
Well, geez, you know, it's not a career really. I mentioned career earlier. It's a life, you know. I mean, it would be like it's like not liking my life if I don't like metal.
Yeah.
You know, it's the thing that, you know, it's the thing that always excited me. You know, and it still gets my heart beating faster, and my blood moving faster through the veins. So I think that it's always been good to me. First and foremost. I mean, most of my friends are through. I've met through this band, and I think that there's something really cool about that fact that it wasn't just about touring the world, making money, doing shows, writing songs. Oh, somebody should appreciate my art. It had nothing to do with that. I think of myself as a person that happened to find the right thing for my personality to be rewarded. You know what I mean? To have it fulfilled positively. This was the right spot. You know, it's not for everybody. I mean, I get it, but I mean, for me, this was the right choice for me. Cool. You know, if fuck me, and if I was an accountant or worked in a cardboard box factory, there's blessed people who do. You know, I mean, everybody's got to work. I get it.
Yep.
I wouldn't have the same amount of fulfillment. I don't think. I mean, I'd have nothing to compare it to. Right. But I'd probably be a fucking miserable accountant or used car salesman.
Right.
But here I get to kind of live my life, with a smile on my face, feeling like I'm getting over it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Fucking Levi's and motorcycle boots, you can't beat it. 40 fucking years of it.
So when you were starting off, and there, you know, obviously the uncertainty about, you know, will Overkill become something that I'm going to do? Did you have any kind of like fallback plan, or were you just in and this was going to be it no matter what happened?
Well, I mean, I was pretty close to a degree. Yeah, I was taking communications at the time, and obviously public speaking, which I still use to this day, only I pepper it with profanity. You know? So it's more understandable for me, you know, and for those listening to it.
Right.
But I think that I had I can't say I had a plan, but I was at least prepared to a large degree to either work in the studio or work in the media or work, oh boy, you know, speech writing or whatever it may be. You
right.
know, television news, who would know?
Yeah.
You know, but once this started rolling, this was all in. I remember my dad saying to me, "You're so close to the degree. You know,
yeah.
You're a fucking senior next year."
Right.
And I went to a great school, and he busted his balls to get me into school. And I said, "Pop, they don't fucking hold record contracts. They don't.
Yeah.
It'll be gone as soon as I say I'm going to finish college. They'll give it to somebody else."
Right.
And he said to me, "Are you sure this is not about girls and free beer?" Well, let me tell you, 25 years later, I became friends with Mike Piazza from the New York Mets, right? And did some of his benefits. And he came up and sang Elimination with him and Eddie Trunk at a party.
Awesome.
So Piazza always told me, if you ever need anything, you know, and I said, "I need your luxury box for my father's 75th. So he leaves me 16 tickets, fills the place with sliders and beers, and I give my father these tickets, and my brother and all his grandkids were there, you know,
Yeah.
his daughter-in-laws. I mean, fucking beautiful day. Guys he grew up with in the fucking Bronx. So we're sitting there, right? And he goes, "I knew this Overkill thing would work out, right?" And I look him right in the eye, I go, "Pop, it was about girls and freedom." I know, Bobby.
That's awesome. That's a great story,
Yeah, it's
man.
fucking cool, yeah.
That is.
I love talented too.
So, Bobby, I just got one last question for you. What's your favorite breakfast food?
Oh shit, I'm a bacon and eggs guy.
All right.
Yeah, I like them over easy. I like rye toast. I don't like the bacon too crispy. And every now and then a little bit of hash browns, home fries, a little onions cut in there.
Nice.
That's my real go-to breakfast.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Bobby, thanks so much. Hope the show's awesome. I know it will be. I don't know why I said hope, but
I hope.
yeah.
Me too. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. It was
All right.
great.
Thanks again.